Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha.
Hello, hello, and a very warm welcome to you all to the Lama Life live stream event of Lama Tsultrim Allione. I'm Dreame, joining you all the way from beautiful Poland, and it's such a pleasure to have you here today. As we are arriving in our seats, preparing to receive teachings from Lama Tsultrim, I'd like to take a moment to share that Tara Mandala is committed to being a welcoming, open, and safe community for practitioners and students of all cultures, races, religions, genders, sexual orientations, age, ability, and circumstances. This event today already feels like a heartfelt reunion after our recent encounters with Lama Tsultrim during her retreats in Germany and Switzerland. I can sense that many of us who participated in those retreats are here today too. Those days filled with Lama's profound teachings and collective deep rest were pure, indescribable treasures. Today, as we come together online, it's a precious opportunity to reconnect with Lamala, maintain the bond we've cultivated, ask questions, and share our reflections. I encourage each of you to actively participate in the chat, as that's how we can know you're really there. Now, without further delay, I'm delighted to hand it over to Lama Tsultrim. Lamala, thank you for being here with us today. We are so eager to hear from you.
Thank you, Dreamela, and welcome everyone. I'm joining you from Rome, Italy, La Bella Roma, where I lived for 7 years between 1979 and 1986. And I haven't really been back very often since then into Rome, maybe 3 times. And I haven't been here for probably at least 7 to 10 years. So last night was kind of a shock. We went to Trastevere, which is a part of Rome, which used to be kind of like I don't know, like a kind of a hangout place. A lot of artists and writers lived there. My best friend, Hanya, lived there, who was a writer. And it was insane. Like, it was kind of like being at a rock concert. It was that crowded. And so many people just jammed in there. And the walls now in Rome are all covered with graffiti, these beautiful old, that sort of yellow ochre wall. And people can smoke outside. So everyone who smokes is outside smoking. So anyway, it was a bit of a shock. So I'd love to know where you all are tuning in from. I see some people have said California and Katya. I don't know where you're tuning in from. But yeah, Florida, Finland. Yeah. We had Pierre from Sweden at several of the retreats that we were in. So maybe I'll just give you a little update of where I've been, and then we'll open the teachings. Thanks, everybody who's tuning in, saying where they're tuning in from. So arrived in London on the 29th of August, having taught for 4 days at a gathering of Ram Dass people, and organized by Raghu Marcus. Krishna Das was there and other old friends. And so I taught Feeding Your Demons there, and then I actually taught a session of Sahaja. And they said to me, oh no, you better not. It's all beginners. They're really beginners here. I don't think they'll be able to understand that. And I just took the leap because my experience and teaching nature of mind is beginners can get it. And they can get it because it's their true nature. And when you point it out, they see it. And so it was very moving for me to do that. And it was also very moving for them to receive it from what they told me afterwards. So we stayed in Hampstead, which is a little outside the main center of London. There's a huge park there called Hampstead Heath, which they don't maintain in a really, sort of rigid way like most parks are maintained in London. It's more like a wild place. And so there's a wild place on one side where we practiced with trees and meditated and took long walks, and then on the other side were all these really great little cafes, especially for breakfast, like really good places. So that was kind of jet lag recovery time. And then I flew to Frankfurt, and they picked me up there and took me to the retreat at a place called Berghof. New retreat center for me, and actually pretty new for them too. It's an old hotel that was bought by some Tibetan Buddhists, and in a really beautiful part of Germany called Weissen that had really nice hiking trails all around it. It was magical. And so I taught 2 things there. The first thing was with my son, Tuku Ursel, and we taught the people who have been doing Ursel Ningtik now for 3 years, Troma's secret instructions, which we taught this summer together. He was on the land at Taramandal and I was online. And so this was for all the German people in that cycle. And then I taught my Cheeks longevity practice to over 100 people there. And that was very moving also. And people, the Germans are very serious practitioners. Like if you say, do this, they actually do it. Whereas Americans laugh, like you say, do this, and they're like, oh, maybe. So that kind of seriousness of practitioner is wonderful. And a lot of our older Sangha members were there too, including Barbara Stemeler and Lisa Svensson and Gudrun from Austria, and so on. So that took up about a week. And then I had been invited to a hotel in the middle of Germany, actually toward the south, a very fancy hotel for 3 days to kind of rest and relax, and then just give one talk on feeding your demons, which I did, and I did really rest. And they had hot pools to swim in, and salt pools and cold plunges, and then a sauna by the river, and then jump in the river. So that was really restorative. And they want me to come back next year and teach for 5 days there. So we'll see how that goes. And then I went on to Switzerland, spent a day in Bern, which means bear. And it's a beautiful town that's actually the capital of Switzerland, where the government is. It's sort of, there's a sort of a peninsula of the Arno River that goes out, and it's so clean you can swim in the river, which I didn't do. And then we had 100 and something people for a Sahaja retreat. And it was pretty international. Some of our Polish Sangha was there, including Dreamela, and some people from Spain, from Italy, from various different countries from Northern Europe, but mostly Swiss and German people. I taught there and then gave big refuge and bodhisattva vow ceremonies at the end. And then returned to Zurich for a few days, and then came here to Rome. So that's my update. Let me know if you have any questions in terms of that. I am going to teach twice more in Europe. There's one that's a weekend in mid-October that is organized by Sarah Ferrini in actually a still active nunnery, Catholic nunnery. It's full, the retreat, for in-person, but online has infinite possibilities. So you can do that. And it's called In the Womb of the Great Mother. And I love that name. The womb of the Great Mother is a term that's actually used quite a bit in Dzogchen, in the Chuying Zo, for example. And so I'll be teaching from the Chuying Zo, the basic space of phenomena, one of Longchenpa's 7 treasures, for the weekend. And then I'll teach one night in Padua. And I believe there's still space in that one night. And it's the Chittamasta Tara Center in Padua. But that's all I'm going to formally teach. I plan to go up for the 4th anniversary of the Parinirvana of Chögyal Namkhe Norbu Rinpoche. I was here actually when he passed away 4 years ago, and so I want to go to the practice on that day at Marigar in Italy. And and then planning to go to Sicily for some downtime, and then back home. So it's been really interesting being in Europe after almost 5 years and COVID. And so everybody's been through something and all finding each other again. And today I went to my favorite place in Rome, which is called the Basilica of San Clemente. I discovered this place when I lived fairly nearby. The first place I lived in Rome was 1981, 82. And so this is a basilica that above ground is from, I believe, the 7th or 8th century, and has really beautiful frescoes. It has the crucifix, but the crucifix is coming out of a living tree. So there's these sort of leaves and tree below, and then there's these spiral-like branches coming out all around the kind of cupola. And it has different symbols of Christianity on the branches. So the tree is something I've been really interested in lately. The tree spirits, you might have heard me talk about the yakshinis, and just the connection of trees and spirituality. So there was the tree again. And so anyway, that's the above ground part. But then you kind of go through this little door. And by the way, I discovered this completely by chance. When I lived in Rome, I jumped off a bus one day and I saw people going into the side door of this church. I mean, it's really like a small door. It looks like a house, a door to a house. So I thought, I wonder where they're going. I could see it was a church. So I went in and then I followed them. And then there's another door. And then you go down these stairs. And below is another level of church that was from an earlier period. And then you go down another set of stairs. So now you're like 2 floors below street level. And you start to hear running water. And there's basically a river running under these churches. And there's a place, so then there's ruins of a Roman house and a Mithric temple, so a pagan temple that are down there. And also a Roman house, and then a sort of marketplace where this water was running through. And so when I discovered this, I was in Jungian analysis in Rome. And so this process of the descent through time and then down to this water, which is like the unconscious, was so profound. I felt like I was living a dream. And Jung had a very similar kind of dream of this process when he was entering into his process. So, yeah, I'm just looking at people's, oh yeah, the Chodwang, I forgot the Chodwang at Tibet House in Frankfurt. Yeah, thank you. Yes, so after Berikoff, I went to Tibet House and then gave the actual Chud empowerment from the main text of Machi Klatrin's oral lineage, the Rinchen Trengwa, which I haven't given very often, and it's really an amazing empowerment. It's quite complex, and you enter into meditation during the empowerment. But anyway, I thought I would share that today with you, that experience of San Clemente, because I feel like it was such a process. I mean, we physically went down there, but then that sense of descent in the psyche. And so, yes, thank you, Caroline Mueller. That's Languette. Reed is the name of the retreat center that I was at in Switzerland, and it's the seat of Namkhe Drime Rinpoche, a great Nyingma Lama, in Switzerland. He lives in India and Nepal, but this is his seat there. So they have a sort of outer aspect that's more mindfulness and that kind of thing. And then they have their actual Namkhe Drime Rinpoche lineage. And he's a Terton, and so they're practicing his termas and so on there. So that was amazing. Anyway, so I thought we'd do a little meditation now. And I'm just going to look before I do and see what, if there's any comments coming in. Oh, thank you, Naomi. She lives near Hampstead. Please do these teachings in New York. Well, yeah, I might do them at Omega Institute next year. They've been inviting me. I haven't decided. Oh, Lynn. Lynn Pollock is at my house in Encinitas, taking care of the cats and Tashi right now, and doing a wonderful job. And apparently I planted one passion fruit plant. I've never lived in a tropical place before. I mean, it's not really tropical, but a place where you can grow passion fruit. And it went crazy. It's like running along the whole top of this wood fence that's around my yard. And she said, it's a bumper crop, and it's just tons of passion fruit. So that's great. And oh, you have Tashi Su. Okay, I know that Lynn had her for a little while. Oh, it's nice to hear from Encinitas, all of you. Okay, so Juniper Branches asked a question, and I'll get to that, but let's raise bodhicitta now and enter into the heart space of bodhicitta, touching in on that spark of bliss at our core in our hearts that the Sahaja teachings speak of, that is ignited at the moment of conception. Feeling that spark of bliss in your heart chakra that is unstainable, untaintable, no matter what's happened to you, no matter what you've done, that spark of bliss is always there, and it's always burning with bliss. So let's raise the intention to spread that to all beings everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to lead you in a Sahaja meditation. So this is from Padma Shri. It's one of the Sahaji yogis. And so before I begin that, I'll just speak a little bit about what Sahaja is, in case you don't know. So it's actually a little bit difficult to understand what Sahaja is. And so I'll explain it from a couple of angles. So Saha means to be born, and then Ja is together. So together born is the literal meaning. In Tibetan, it's Lenchikye, or co-emergent is the generally accepted translation of that, but it can also be translated as spontaneous, innate, or inherent. So what is it that's innate? It is this spark of bliss in our hearts. So let's just take a moment, maybe put your hand on your heart. I find it helpful to actually touch that place in my body. This is your heart chakra. When you say, oh, I feel it in my heart, or my heart hurts, or my heart is broken, it's this. So this This is the seat of our awakened nature in the physical body, although the chakras are not physical, they're subtle body. So let's just feel that seat of innate wisdom, our awakeness. It's already there. You don't need to develop it. In fact, the less you try, the better. So let yourself drop into effortlessness, natural awareness. That's been born with us since we were conceived. Stop trying. That already awake quality that's been with us since the moment of conception is perceived by stopping efforting in our meditation. In fact, a lot of the Sahaja dohas or songs are about going beyond mindfulness, or this is not mindfulness. And they actually say that in them because mindfulness involves effort. So this is about non-effort. Let's feel that effort-free awakeness or natural, inherent awakeness. This is the awakeness that's been with you for your whole life. Perhaps as a child, things happened where you became aware of this. Maybe a moment in nature or lying down and looking at the sky at night. Could feel the vastness. So that's the Sahaja, born with. Can you feel that? Maybe you just write in the comments if you can. Oh yeah, that sounds good, Jennifer. Yeah. So, yes. Yes. Isn't it a relief that you don't have to try? We've all put a lot of effort into our practice, and then to be told, stop trying. It's kind of a shock, but it's actually amazing to do it. So you're not trying, but you're not distracted. It doesn't mean stop trying and just let your mind wander away. It means stop trying and enter the vast space. Let your shoulders drop. Let your mouth be a little open, eyes open. And release. And that experience is limitless. And that means there's an experience of vastness, spaciousness with it. And so another meaning of Sahaja is co-emergent in the sense of two things emerging at once. And so that idea of co-emergence was what really interested me and what kind of brought me to research the word Sahaja. And that's how I discovered that it was such an important concept, I guess you could call it, even though it's really about being beyond concepts, that there was something called the Sahajayana. And some scholars debate whether there was actually a Sahajayana, but there was certainly many, many mentions of this word in the early tantric dohas in the Mahamudra tradition in India, and also mentioned a lot in the Mahamudra teachings in Tibet and in the teachings of Lama Tsultrim. She talks about Sahaja. I found that really interesting. So, the idea of co-emergence as two things arising at once. So, okay. Since time immemorial, in other words, beginningless time, which means not in time, in the fourth moment, which is not past, not present, not future, not present either, fourth time. So since time immemorial, the Rangrik Yeshe, or self-cognizing wisdom. What's that mean? Self-cognizing wisdom. It's when we turn our minds to look at our minds, so let's do that. Turn your awareness to look at itself. So you have the awareness that's listening to me and thinking and trying to figure this out. Turn that energy back to look at its own source. You feel what happens when you do that is you look back, although it's not like literally trying to look behind you or looking into your own eyeballs, but just that energy that goes out to grasp. Turn that back to look at itself. And then it's like vastness opens. That's Rangrik, self-cognizing. And wisdom is the wisdom that arises when you do that. That's Rangrik Yeshe. So, since time immemorial, the self-knowing wisdom, or Rangrik Yeshe, the unborn, meaning didn't come into being. Unborn is a really key word. In this Sahaja text that I've been translating, it's mentioned more than the word Sahaja. It's like practically every other line, unborn, unborn, unborn. If something's unborn, it's also unceasing. So it is what is outside and yet not excluding conditioned existence, the existence that we're in. I'm born and I'm going to die. I'm not unborn. My body was born and it's aging now and it will fall apart at some point. But this won't, because it's unborn. And this is our intrinsic nature. Unborn, pure Dharmakaya. Wow. Pure Dharmakaya, Kadak, primordially pure Dharmakaya, the formless, open, aware, state. Even saying state doesn't really work because that makes it a thing. Kaya means dimension. So the formless, awake dimension. It also can be translated as body. Okay. Unborn, pure Dharmakaya. So this idea of pure is thinking about this being in the Christian world here in Rome. Oh, and by the way, another thing I did today was go to a mass. In San Clemente, when I went to try to go down into those lower levels, they were having mass. So I sat in the church and this whole choir came in and they started singing, men and women singing together. You couldn't see them. It was just the sort of divine voices that were emerging in the church. And I closed my eyes, and my whole spirit was really uplifted. And there was such a feeling of compassion in those songs. Couldn't understand the words, but that wasn't about the words. So in any case, I've never been to a mass before, and this was extraordinary in Rome, which is the seat of the Catholic Church. And for all of its bad things, which we're very aware of, there's also the Christian teachings have served a lot of people around the world, and they are based on compassion and giving. It's really bodhicitta. Even though it's been very distorted, including the Catholic Church, over time, at the root, there's those teachings. But there's also the teachings of original sin, which is that there's something primordially wrong with us, or there's a big mistake at our root. And that state was becoming conscious. And that state that was caused by women, according to the Bible. Eve offered that apple from the tree of knowledge. I think that's really interesting, because it's saying that we shouldn't have knowledge, and that the gaining of knowledge caused our separation from God. But maybe it's women's independence that caused our separation. In any case, original sin happened, and that's very different from the idea of kadak, which is primordial purity. So I thought about that today, and this says pure Dharmakaya, primordially pure. And the emotions born from an ego have been co-emergent and natural. So what this is saying is that the emotions and afflictions have been co-emerging with primordial purity throughout our lives, and they still are. However, there's a state that's under that. So there's this co-emergence of confusion, let's say, and awakeness, both happening. They're co-emerging. And by being able to hold that paradox, of confusion and awakeness, then we drop into a state of Sahaja. So what this says so far, I'll read it from the beginning. Since time immemorial, the self-knowing, Brahmrikyeshe, the unborn and pure Dharmakaya, and the emotions born from an ego have been co-emergent and natural. And furthermore, since knowledge and ignorance are inseparably interconnected, one therefore calls them, respectively, the co-emergent gods and demons. That's from Lama, from her teachings on Sahaja, on co-emergence. I'll read that again. Since time immemorial, the self-knowing wisdom, the unborn and pure Dharmakaya, and the emotions born from an ego have been co-emergent and natural. And furthermore, since knowledge and ignorance are inseparably interconnected, one therefore calls them, respectively, gods and demons. So, how does this apply to us in our lives? How do you work with this in your life? So, yeah. So this is what really fascinated me about the term co-emergence and my research into it, which is really just beginning. I've only been teaching this for 2 years. So think about your life. You have your life. Maybe it's your divorce. Maybe it's your body aging. Maybe it's problems with your children. Maybe it's the problem of not having children. Maybe it's issues in your work. You have your stuff that you're sort of wrestling with every day, right? We all have that. And we also have an awake state, which is co-emerging with that. It's also always there, right? So if we can hold the paradox of those two things, or that sort of dualistic problem, I guess you could say, if we hold that paradox and relax into what's under that, which is the vastness, which can accommodate it all, and we can hold our lives in that way, we can be free. We still have to deal with our problematic child or our problematic work situation or our aging body or an illness that we might have or our money issues. We still have that because that's part of conditioned existence. We also have unconditioned, the unconditioned state. And if we drop into the effortless, unconditioned, we can hold all that and let it be. Relax into what's under that, the awakeness. And the way we do that is through not trying, which is also kind of a paradox. But let's try that. Let's try to feel all of our issues and also feel our awakeness and realize that at any moment we can shift into the awakeness, which then can hold that paradox and beyond. So feel that and release the struggle of trying to gain enlightenment and get away from samsara. And let yourself drop into the unborn Dharmakaya. You don't have to get rid of anything. You don't have to try. Stop trying. So these two are constantly emerging. Co-emerging. And we have this inherent born with awakeness. So those are two ways that I have found that born with, or Sahaja, or Lenchi Kipe, or just Lenchi co-emergent, are taught. So let me just see what you are yeah. I'm reading what you wrote, Cornelia. Yeah, we have that. Shikantaza Resa is just sitting, and that's maybe similar, but it's very connected to posture. The Shikantaza method in Soto Zen is that when you just take the posture and sit, that in itself is a state of enlightenment. That there's actually no more teachings than that. And I think that's different than this, because you don't need any posture for this. You don't need to kind of change your posture to understand it. Sarah, thank you. Beautiful expanded space. Yes, I think Rumi speaks about this kind of thing. Let's see, I'm just looking back. What is the relationship of the light that comes into existence at conception and the unborn space? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So that spark that is ignited with the union of the ovum and the sperm, spark of bliss, is the experience of non-duality. It's not two. It's not the sperm. It's not the ovum. It's the union. And when that union takes place, there's a spark of the experience of non-duality. And that is spacious, vast, no edge. I'll just quickly, before we end, read what Machi said, another thing. As long as there's an ego, there are demons. When there's no more ego, there are no more demons. If there's no ego, there's no object to cut through. You know, Machik taught a lot about cutting through. Chud. That's what it means to cut through. If there's no ego, there's nothing to cut through. Nor is there any more fear or terror. Free from all extremes, co-emergent wisdom gives birth to the understanding of the nature of all phenomena. This is referred to as the fruit of liberation. The fruit of liberation from the four demons. This is referred to as the fruit of liberation from the four demons. I'll read that one more time, in case you're trying to take notes and scribbling badly. There you have it. As long as there's an ego, there are demons. So let's, as I read this, try to experience it. As long as there's an ego, there are demons. So that's all our worries. And when there's no more ego, there are no more demons. If there's no ego, there's no object to cut through. Nor is there any more fear or terror. Free from all extremes, co-emergent wisdom gives birth to the understanding of the nature of all phenomena. This is referred to as the fruit of liberation from the four demons, outer, inner, and the demons of egocentricity, and then the fundamental demon of self-clinging. So that's what Machik said about Sahaja. There may be more. I'm going to do more searching on that. So what I'd like you to do with this today as we end our session is to realize that you can relax, that you're already perfect. You're already awake. It doesn't mean you stop doing your practice or taking care of your world, but it means that within that, you can hold the vast view that is achieved through effortlessness, and that will liberate you. And that is Sahaja. Non-dual awareness. Oh, Cassandra. My husband died after 22 years too. Oh, it's so hard. And 1 year, and then 1 year, they call it anniversary, and it's like, oh, this is not an anniversary. I never liked that word used that way. But yeah, send you heartstrings and empathy, and I know how that is. And I'm so glad that this was helpful to you today. So you can hold that grief and also hold the awakeness and relax. So let's take a moment and dedicate the merit of our time together today. Merit is the positive energy we accumulate through positive actions. And gather all that up within you and then release it to benefit all beings. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I've missed being with you on Lama Live, and it's just really hard when I'm teaching or traveling to figure out how to do it, how to have enough steady Wi-Fi and so on. But I'm in a city now, and I could do it today, and I'll try whenever I can. And we've had some wonderful guests in the meantime. I think you probably all enjoyed Robert Thurman last week and others who have come in. And it's always a pleasure, and very grateful to Dreamila, who's holding this now for almost 2 years, every week. So she's amazing being, and I'm sending you all love and best wishes, and thank you for your thank yous. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you all for all these thank yous. Lots of love to you all, and maybe I'll be there next week. I have to kind of see if where I land has steady internet. Okay. Mwah. See you soon.
Thank you, dear Lama. These teachings are just so important, so healing and beautiful. And so is your commitment to teach us, support us, brighten our path when it gets difficult. Thank you. And I'm sure you can already feel all of the warmth of our appreciation in the chat. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. And thank you to our audience. Your dedication warms our hearts week after week. So we are deeply grateful that you set aside your Sundays to connect with our Sangha, nourishing the bonds we truly hold so dear. So may we always remember the nature of our mind and be able to stay there. And now, following the tradition going all the way back to the time of the Buddha 2,600 years ago, you have the opportunity to make an offering of dana to Lama Tsultrim Allione. Dana is a Pali and Sanskrit word that means generosity. Offering dana creates an auspicious connection and is a beautiful expression of the interdependence between teacher and student. If you would like to offer dana in gratitude for our time together today, please follow the link you will see in the chat in a moment. We'll be here next week, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we hope you will be here too. Thank you, everyone. May we meet again and again on the path, and may all beings benefit everywhere.
Tare tu re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare tu re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om tare tu re. Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om tare tu re.